vain to find irrefutable evidence of visitors from outer space. Now they're confronted by an even more bizarre phenomenon: thousands of people who claim they've been abducted by aliens.
I looked over to the right side of the bed, and I don't know where they come from, how they got there. All I saw was just they were there.
But there are many skeptics.
Why do people suddenly feel this urge to believe that there is something powerful outside us? Is it because of the collapse of religion?
The fascination with alien abductions has spread to Australia, and scientists are fighting back against the phenomenon of alien encounters. And that's our story tonight.
Live from Sydney, the ABC's Lateline. Here's Kerry O'Brien.
Welcome to the program. The UFO community has thrown up some startling conspiracy theories over the years, and the biggest of them all, the so-called Roswell incident, was kicked along yesterday when footage purported to be of an autopsy on an alien after a flying saucer crash in New Mexico in 1947 was screened around the world. But now there's an even more bizarre phenomenon on the horizon. Over the past decade, many thousands of Americans, mostly women, have come to the fore claiming abductions by aliens. In fact, one recent survey suggested as many as 500,000 Americans believe they've been abducted. Although doctors and scientists have been quick to dismiss the claims, they're still alarmed at the way the stories have spread. And in fact, some psychiatrists are amongst the believers. Some argue that these bizarre accounts may be displacing religious beliefs. In a moment, we'll talk to the leader of the alien abduction movement, as well as a sceptical UFO researcher and a leading scientist who campaigns against the movement. But first, Mark Corcoran reports from out there.
In 1985, American writer Whitley Strieber claimed he was abducted by aliens. His best-selling book of the alleged encounter, titled Communion, was swiftly followed by the full Hollywood treatment. Since then, thousands of Americans claim to have experienced similar abductions, complete with bizarre sexual examinations.
You've broken my mind.
A recent poll suggested that 1 in 10 Americans believed that they'd seen UFOs or aliens. Fed into this mix, wild conspiracies that Washington is somehow keeping confirmation of these encounters secret. And it's not limited to the US. The alien abduction phenomenon has already landed in Australia, much to the bemusement of the skeptics.
Why do people suddenly feel this urge to believe that there is something powerful outside us? Is it because of the collapse of religion? Is it because authority figures that some people tend to regard with some awe have let us down so badly in recent years, and that people are looking for some external authority figure to give meaning to their lives? I really don't know.
There are also credibility problems with another alien encounter. A film released worldwide yesterday purported to show the autopsy of an alien retrieved from a spaceship that crashed near a US Air Force base at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. In the so-called Roswell incident, alien bodies and spacecraft remains were then secretly disposed of in a huge cover-up. Many UFOologists believe the Roswell story, but suspect the film may be faked. So, is seeing really believing? An amateur cameraman captured these images over Western Sydney late last year. This type of sighting is the bread and butter of established UFO researchers, who now fear that alien abduction claims may harm their credibility. Researcher Bill Chalker says of the 100 alien abduction cases in Australia that he's looked at, less than 10 warrant further investigation.
UFO abduction cases present less sort of compelling evidence than sort of what I would interpret as mainstream UFO events, landing cases, so-called electromagnetic cases, radar visual type cases. They have sort of more hard, tangible evidence to deal with, and in most abduction type cases, our experience has been that there's very little in the way of compelling physical evidence, but certainly there's some fairly compelling emotional evidence in terms of the impact it has on witnesses.
But the one abduction case that really excites the UFOologists centres on this woman. She conceals her identity and uses a false name, Kelly Carl, to avoid ridicule. Kelly claims the encounter occurred 2 years ago as she and her husband were driving past this paddock in the Dandenong Ranges near Melbourne.
And in the field was, I suppose I could just call it a craft. It was round orange circles, like I suppose really large amber stoplights, with some sort of blue fluorescent haze underneath it. It descended towards the ground, I suppose, in a conical shape.
Kelly says she convinced her husband to stop so they could investigate.
It looked like just one figure that came out on the field. At first it was tall and black, and it came out in front of the craft, and it quite amazed me because I wasn't expecting to see people. I mean, it was amazing enough seeing what we were seeing. For some reason, I got this really strange feeling. I know it sounds crazy that they had no souls, and I just began screaming.
Apparently, 3 other witnesses in a second car also experienced the encounter, but Lateline couldn't talk to them. They were told they'd sold their story to a German magazine. Even so, researchers are still convinced of the story.
You have the aspect of both physical effects on the women involved, and the fact that there are at least 2 separate groups of people that have reported this experience, and those 2 groups of people weren't known to each other. There is physical evidence at site in terms of marks on the ground and magnetic anomalies found. So you have a fairly compelling case that something happened. Just exactly what it is remains to be seen.
But Kelly Carl is not alone. In Sydney, an alien abductee support group gathers to talk through their experiences.
And now that I've found a place that I can come to now, being this group, it's helped me a lot. I think everyone here could say the same thing.
Well, you were the one who told me.
Since its inception 2 years ago, the group says it's helped 70 abductees, some of whom have painted pictures of their captors. The group's president claims he was abducted from his bedroom in 1988, in exactly the same manner as the movie Communion.
People ask me, what were you given secrets of the world, anything? No, I wasn't. It was just basically, we will not hurt you, it's okay, calm down, we're not going to hurt you, it'll be like the last time. It was basically a calming effect more than anything, and I must say I did feel very, very calm, considering that in the beginning I did think I was paralysed and I'd never walk again, and that frightened the hell out of me.
He claims alien experiments left what he calls scoop marks on his legs, apparently a common trait with abductees.
I often find scars on my body too. The cat scratched me, or I've been doing a bit of gardening, and you don't really notice them when they happen, and then you think, I wonder where I scratched that. I mean, people, it's a deep desire to believe that there's something significant in things that otherwise, in normal circumstances, you'd regard as rather insignificant.
The government-funded Project Phoenix has been engaged in a fruitless search of the galaxies for alien radio signals. Many in the scientific community want to believe in UFOs. The only problem is they've found no evidence. Other scientists suggest that alien encounters are the product of hallucinations, caused by unusual magnetic fields created by the movement of tectonic plates in earthquake zones, and that the large number of alien encounters along fault lines may explain why they are so common in California. Another scientific theory, hypnagogic imagery, where the person falls asleep instantly. Hearing is reduced. The sufferer thinks the engine has stopped while experiencing an intense hallucination. But none of this convinces the true believers.
If I saw someone stab someone in a back alley somewhere, I could stand up in court and testify, and that would be enough to put that person away for life. Now, here, we have scientific evidence here. I mean, the whole world mightn't have seen it, but it's there, and yet it's not enough. It's never going to be enough as long as there's people that don't want to believe. It's as simple as that.
I'd love to think there was other life out there. It's a fairly bleak thought if you think that we're the only intelligent species in the entire universe. But what I need is some evidence to go beyond my wishes.
That report from Mark Corcoran, and now to our guests. Bud Hopkins is the founder of the Intruders Foundation and one of the leaders of the alien abduction movement in the United States. He's worked with 500 abductees and is the author of the books Missing Time and Intruders, which was made into a television miniseries in 1992. and he joins us tonight from Boston. Jenny Randles has been researching UFO sightings and reports since 1969. She was Director of Investigations for the British UFO Research Association until last year, when she resigned in protest at what she regarded was an increasingly sensationalist approach, and Jenny Randles is in Manchester. Paul Gross is Professor of Life Sciences at the University of Virginia. He was convener of a New York Academy of Sciences conference on the flight from science and reason, and he's also co-author of a book called Higher Superstition, and he joins us from Charlottesville, Virginia. Bud Hopkins, you've personally interviewed hundreds of people who claim to have been abducted by aliens. How do you establish that they don't suffer from delusions, hallucinations, or are simply attention-seeking?
Well, first of all, in terms of attention-seeking, of the 500 people I've worked with, perhaps 10 or 15 are willing to come forward and talk about their stories publicly and use their names. That is simply impossible to assume that these people want attention when they are terrified of getting any kind of attention. The issue of their mental stability, I, of course, have psychiatrists, psychologists who work with me, who interview some of these people. I've had 7 psychiatrists so far come to me because of their own abduction experiences. The oversimplification of some of the statements made...
Sorry, how many psychiatrists have had abductions themselves?
I said I've had 7 come to me about their own abduction experiences. Psychiatrists, a number of psychologists, and also psychotherapists and so forth have come to me, all anonymously. I've had a research scientist from NASA come to me because of a personal abduction experience and so forth. But I wanted to say at the...
I'd like to cut to Paul Gross here for a moment. Paul Gross, you are a supreme skeptic on this topic, but it is easy on something like this to be a skeptic, isn't it? Almost too easy.
Well, I suppose it's too easy, but I'm not a skeptic in principle. I just expect that, as Mr. Hopkins said, extraordinary phenomena or extraordinary claims require not extraordinary investigations, but extraordinary proof.
I'm glad you said that it doesn't require an investigation. That puts it all to rest.
Hang on, Bud Hopkins. Just give him a chance to give us a complete answer. Sorry, Paul Gross.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. I've encountered nothing that remotely approximates a proof of alien abductions or of UFO sightings. So I remain a skeptic, if you want to use that term to describe me, but all the phenomena reported are certainly possible. I just don't know any evidence for them.
There is no shortage, though, is there, of highly credible mainstream scientists who do believe that there is intelligent life elsewhere in space. Some of the most respected scientists, some of the most respected scientists in the world. So why is it so hard to believe that one or another species of that intelligent life would have had the capacity to reach this planet?